Alexander, I guess we proceed with all of the regular action calendar?
That's correct, and I'll call all at once. We do have one walk-on, so I'll call the regular action, and then we'll do the walk-ons.
Okay. And then we'll get to the speakers. We have speakers again.
May I have a motion to adopt resolution number TF 19-16 through 6/60/2016? On the motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Mascarello, second by Councilman Murphy. Supervisor, you have speakers on 649, 653, 654, 655.
All right, then we'll start with Bob Driver. Bob?
Good morning. On 649, and I'll actually again ask, and I suppose I'll ask this more to Councilman Mascarella. 649, but also many of the agreements, they are authorizing, and I brought this up last time, the supervisor to sign legal agreements, and considering the legal issues that the supervisor is facing, maybe now I believe that you are deputy supervisor, can you be signing these documents, these legal documents for the town in his place?
That's up to the town attorney to advise me what to sign, what not to sign. But I do sign, as of yesterday, I did sign some documents the town was to make.
Okay. Is that something that the attorney could answer?
I don't know specifically
Town
what
attorney,
the
no
question
comments?
is.
There's certain documents, again, this question came up at the last board meeting, but there are certain documents that only by law the supervisor can sign. Those are the ones that we will continue to sign. And in the event you're not available for signature, the deputy supervisor then can sign your name.
Okay, so that's good.
That was before there was a deputy supervisor, when you answered that question last week.
I think it was when they made the appointment.
No, it was actually before, during the resolution question.
The same entity.
All
So,
right, but you have the answer, Bob.
okay. Resolution 653, paying a company to remove tires for recycling. Isn't that something that the town makes money on for recycling, and is it just not the case with tires, or?
Let's get an answer for you.
Commissioner Berry?
I think you got to find a garage with the marketplace. But you know, they got-
It's not the case with tires,
Right.
there's no money to be made in tires. There's money to be made other places.
So we collect them and then pay someone to take them away?
Absolutely. State law.
Okay, thank you.
So, you know, that's a function of the marketplace. There's no call for it.
Correct.
No call for it. Okay.
654, I know this is for one particular member to renew their 5-year term on the zoning board of appeals. How often does the zoning board of appeals meet?
I think they meet a couple of times a month.
So 24 meetings a year, basically.
I don't know the exact number, but they're about.
Okay, and so each member gets $22,500 for just attending those
I
meetings?
think they're all the same, except the chairperson might get a little bit more.
Yeah, slightly more, like 25.
Okay. Resolution 655, this is almost $80,000 to Michael Spinelli's company. Again, it's the same company over and over again. Why do we continue to just continually give these outside contracts to Spinelli particularly? Don't they have competition? They're so, even from the optics standpoint, they're so interconnected to this town with family members working here. This gentleman over there basically is a full-time, acts as a full-time employee here, but works for them.
Which gentleman who you talking about?
Mr. Ellsworth, you know who I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Why do we continue when you know that that's been an issue to the residents of the town? Why do we continue to give that company contract after contract after contract?
We'll find out. But where does this contract emanate out of? DPW, I assume DPW?
Supervisor, this isn't a new contract, this is just an encumbrances.
No, I know.
Right.
Who's here?
Supervisor.
Limit your dialogue to this contract. What's happening here, Leslie?
Well, this is a final payment for the generator that was installed at Town Hall North for general services earlier this year. And I understand Mr. Faria talks about the same company, Spinelli. We have several different on-call contracts for various disciplines. And based upon this was electrical engineering. They were brought in a year and a half ago, back in 2015, to design it. You hear different, up in the past, we've heard other contractors or consultants named also. We have different consultants who specialize in certain aspects of various engineering projects. So in this case, Nassau Suffolk was selected to run this engineering project. In other cases, if it's traffic, we pick another consultant. If it's environmental, for the Department of Environmental Resources, we have a different consultant. So you may see their names, but they're brought up first to do the design, then the bid phase, and then the construction management. They follow the project through the entire process, and we come to the board each time for the design phase. It'll either be the design and bid phase, or just the design and then the bid and construction management phase. So you'll hear their names several times throughout the project, but it's all for one project in this case. Same thing when the contractor is selected, we reference Nassau Suffolk because they are recommending to award the contract to the contractor. They also recommend to final the contract to the contract. So you hear their names often through a year-long process for this particular contract.
Okay,
So-
but the original on-call, you're characterized as the on-call, is bid.
They're RFP. It's an RFP
Yeah, I
process,
bet.
yes.
I'm counting that as bid.
Yes, and we have about 22 different on-call contracts for various aspects of engineering services throughout the town of Worcester.
And how many of those 22 have a Spinelli connected to it?
If you know.
Probably about, we think 4 or 5 and maybe 6 or 7 of all the different
That's
aspects.
just within your department? There are other departments so that they're part of it as well, right?
I don't know if we can answer that. If they will provide
Yeah, I
that.
can't speak for the other departments, I can only speak for ours.
I don't know that the practice is, I don't want to stick my neck out too far, but I think you'll probably find in other towns, the situation is probably very similar. I don't, can anybody help me with what happens in other municipalities? Paul, you know it? Yeah, I'll take it if you know anything.
Yes, it's a standard practice for a lot of municipalities. You'll go out with an RFP for different type of engineering services, and then they will select firms. And when work comes up, then they go to that particular firm and ask them, to give a proposal, a detailed proposal on the scope of work.
Okay.
I know Nassau County does this all the time, because when I was in the consulting field, I did work for Nassau County on special projects that the company had been designated in certain areas, and when a project came up, they came to us and we gave them a detailed scope of work on how to perform the services for them.
Does he work for the
If they
town?
liked it, they would go forward. If they didn't like us, then they would go to somebody else.
Thanks, Paul. No, I just asked if anybody in the audience knew what happens.
No, I'm just also bringing up a point. Besides this contract, you've got a Spinelli, who I think runs HR here. Mr. Ellsworth bills this town hundreds of thousands of dollars for his time. It's an ongoing pattern within this town, and I wouldn't compare this town to other towns, because this town pretty much does stand alone in the condition it's in and the microscope that it's under because of the corruption that's been acute, that's been focused on in this town.
All right, well, that's your opinion, you're entitled to it.
Okay.
No, nobody's trying to dissuade you, we're just trying to offer you other points of view. Robert Redd, you're up.
Hello, I'm Robert Redd from Massapequa, New York, and I have a question on, some concerns on
655 also. I was just listening to obviously listening to everything here, but there's a couple of things I'd like to bring to your attention. This is actually PWC 18-16. This really isn't a contract. This is an open-end service agreement. And
I'm sorry, Rob, you're talking about the initial on-call?
right. If you went through the draft, if you went through the backup material that was posted by the town on your webpage, provided some information, and PWC 18-16 is actually what the town refers to as an open-end service agreement. And the way that the town has this set up is, if you read Resolution 543-215, which is referenced in your current resolution, at the request of Commissioner Richard Betz, a number of engineers were given this contract, or this open-end service agreement, excuse me. And you have them listed here. Nassau Suffolk is one of them. Lockwood, Kessler, Barlett, Sidney Bound, Lyro, John B. Grillo. Now, each of these companies gets the exact same mirror open-end service agreement. Okay? You didn't vote on it. There was no RFP. It was done on the request of Commissioner Richard Betz. And now, as work is needed, like for instance in the resolution that you're dealing with today, this is again being brought forth by Commissioner Richard Betz. So the way you have it set up is that your commissioners can pick and choose through these 5 individual people that have these open-end service agreements and assign work to them in the way that they want. I'd like to bring to your attention that specifically Commissioner Betz, if you can remember his testimony based on the 135 Stillwater incident, I would be highly subject of any recommendations he's making to the town board after his appearance in that.
I'm sorry, highly...
suspect?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, I misspoke. You're right. Highly suspect of any further recommendations Mr. Betz might make to you. He felt that there was nothing wrong at 135 Stillwater there. I'd also like to point out that, yes, Michael Spinelli is involved with Nassau Suffolk Engineering, but what you need, to my point, to look at from an ethical standpoint is, for the longest period of time, the town was doing business with Michael Spinelli through Cash and Spinelli and Ferretti. I understand that I don't think they're getting any further contracts, so I'm not 100% sure of that. But at the same time that you were doing business with Cash and Spinelli and Ferretti, you're doing business with Nassau Suffolk Engineering and Architecture, which is it's the same company, just 2 different names. So now, I've even brought to your attention in the past instances where Michael Spinelli actually consulted on his own work as being Nassau Suffolk as opposed to Cash and Spinelli Ferretti. So there are some ethical questions here. There's also a large number of Spinelli family working with the town, okay, in high-ranking positions. And also, I don't know if he still holds the position, but Michael Spinelli was on the Planning and Advisory Board, and he was also on the Historical Preservation Committee. So there are a lot of questions with the current attitude in the town, the current situation that the town is experiencing now. There are a lot of ethical concerns, and I just wanted to bring these to your attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. They were lining up to address it. Town Attorney Genova?
It's very important. I don't want to comment on the latter portion. I don't know if, but I did want to be very clear, and I have Deputy Commissioner McElroy here. In terms of the RFP process, let's go slow and make sure we dispel some of the myths. Number one, the RFPs for multiple disciplines are done every 2 years, and the deputy will correct me if I say something that's wrong.
Well, see, go slow, look at it already. Use multiple disciplines. Give us a plain English.
Leslie, why don't you take us through, there's different engineering disciplines, and for each one, mechanical, electrical.
Discipline being a function.
Function.
Fancy word for function, okay.
So a request for proposals is prepared every 2 years for each of those functions. How many functions are there?
I believe it's 22 or 25,
Okay.
whether it's electrical, engineering, civil, environmental resources. There's a different one for each engineering discipline. They begin, they run every 2 years, and in the year that they are expiring, we begin in August, and we send out 22 to 25 separate RFPs. We roll them out, about 5 each week, for a series of 5 weeks to 6 weeks, and we receive all the responses back in for each of the specific on-call agreements. We do that from August through October. And then in December in this instance, the current one's December of 15, we come to the board with 22 to 25 resolutions, and the town board acts and approves every contract based upon our recommendation.
Okay.
So it is
And also, with each discipline, it goes to multiple engineering
firms.
professionals. And typically, the board will, based on the recommendation from the Department of Public Works, the Division of Engineering that reviews it, they will make recommendations, and the board typically, not in every instance, approves the use of multiple firms per discipline. So it allows the engineering department, division rather, and the town board the greatest latitude in terms of picking the best people for the particular job that comes up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So every 2 years, by way of RFP, these various contractors are selected, and as work is required during a 2-year period,
Yes.
you have that list to go to, and I guess the department, ultimately through the commissioner, makes a recommendation as who's best suited to do the work.
One of our outlying departments will contact us, whether it's parks, environmental, general services, and say, we have a project that we want to build, construct, and so forth. So they come to us, they give us the scope of what the project is, and then we go to the list of on-calls, and we pick the consultant that we feel has the best expertise in this particular scope. And then we come
Well,
back.
let's go slow, because this is where the myths come in. An open services agreement is a term of art that had been used through the years. It refers to, and it really should be corrected, and we will correct it, to a standard consulting agreement. So for example, company X comes to the town and says, we're interested in doing work in a particular discipline. The first time the town board, provided the recommendation is made by the Division of Engineering and ratified by the town board, we will execute a standard consulting agreement, which is roughly a 25-page document that is in effect the contract between the town of Oyster Bay and that particular consulting firm. It has been referred to over the years as an open service agreement or a term to that effect. Having said that, what it says on the document itself is that it is a standard consulting agreement. Now, here's where there's a miscommunication. If, for example, a company after a 2-year period chooses to come back to the town, and we've had a bad experience with them, or we don't think we need to employ their services, and the town board chooses, or the Division of Engineering, not to accept them as one of the successful responders, that contract ends. If, however, which is the case oftentimes, if it's renewed, it avoids us having to negotiate a whole new contract. It's subject to the same terms and conditions. What's critical for everyone to understand, because some people don't, is that the contract does not in and of itself give the town board, the Division of Engineering, the ability to work with a firm for 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. It merely governs the terms and conditions for the 2-year period that this town board awards through the RFP process. So I just want to be very clear, because it's not an open service agreement. It has been referred to in former resolutions, and that's actually incorrect, and we have changed that internally. But the agreement itself says standard consulting agreement. So I just want to be very clear. It in no way allows the department or the town, without going through the competitive RFP process, to continue to award work past the duration of that particular RFP.
Okay, that's pretty clear. I'm going to ask I almost hate to ask a relevant question, but I will. I mean, the work that's being done under these agreements, despite all the negativity that you hear, there's certain things we have to rise above and accept it. It's not fun doing it when we do it. We got to be bigger than some of these issues. But having said that, we all do know about the town of Oyster Bay, its infrastructure, the work that's done here. I think it's been passed upon many times, and the court of public opinion as well. I'm not going to get into it, I promise. But having said that, the work that's being done under these agreements is satisfactory.
Absolutely.
And it's acceptable. Commissioner Betz?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Is
it
there
is.
any question about that?
And every dollar that is spent, this board approves and authorizes by the Division of Engineering. We come back several times, again, before the consultants and the contractor. Every dollar is before you, and you ultimately vote on their funding.
And I'm gonna keep it simple, and they do good work.
No, they do, and I think the thing that's important to say publicly on the record is that the work and the responses are reviewed every 2 years by the Division of Engineering, and I believe graded, and recommendations are made to the town board based on that.
Oh,
Some
well
go
done,
up,
thank
some
you.
go up.
Rob, I didn't want to turn this into a debate.
Sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I just wanted to point out to you that maybe this will help, because I've foiled many of these contracts, open-end service agreements. I haven't seen any RFP material in the foils or the contracts that I reviewed. What I have observed, though, is, like the town attorney mentioned, there are many different disciplines, engineering, P&D consulting, and I understand that now town officials here are saying that 25 RFPs are going out. But it's been my experience that the same 6 or 7 companies get the same contracts no matter what the discipline. So maybe if you took a look at that, you might see that pattern.
Okay, we'll take a look. Thanks, Rob. All right, Mr. Alpadonna, back to you.
Motion was made by Councilman Mascarello, seconded by Councilman Benjamin. On the vote, Supervisor Venditto.
Aye.
Councilman Mascarello.
Aye.
Councilman Nakano. Aye. Councilman Cashagana. Aye. Councilman Pinto. Aye. Councilwoman Leslie.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Motion to adopt resolution PF 19-16 through 660, 2016 passes with 7 ayes. Now we have a suspend. I have a motion to suspend rules and add resolution number 661, 2016. I'll read it.
Yeah, this is the military service?
Retirement.
Yeah, okay.
Resolution authorizing the acceptance of retirement papers from K. Leslie and authorizing controller to pay said employee retirement incentive. On the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Mascarello, seconded by Councilman McEnroe. On the vote, Supervisor Venditto.
Okay, I just want to be clear, this was, I believe, a young lady who was on active military duty during the period of the incentive, and I think we're carving out an exception because she was on active duty. Is that a simple statement of what it is?
Yes, it is.
Who said that? Oh, okay, that's what it is, Vic? Okay, very good. Vote aye.
Thank you, Councilman Mascarello.
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe.
Aye.
Councilman Cashagana.
Aye.
Councilman Pinto.
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules and add resolution number 661, 2016 passes with 7 ayes. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 661, 2016? On the motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Mascarello, second by Councilman McEnroe. On the vote, Supervisor Venditto.
Vote aye.
Councilman Mascarello.
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe. Aye. Councilman Cashagana. Councilman Pinto.
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Motion to adopt resolution number 661, 2016 passes with 7 ayes.
Is Ms. Leslie in the room? All right, Vic, you talk to her, or you talk to her?
Yes, I will.
Tell her, thank you for her service. And I know the board appreciates you. All the residents appreciate it. All right, sorry, Jim.
Calendar is complete.
All right, and Ms. Muscarella, I think, I'll take a motion.
Supervisor, I move that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing collective negotiations of the CSEA contract and discussing the proposed sale or lease of real property.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. We'll be in executive session and we'll be back in public comment thereafter. Jonathan, are you joining us?
Yes, Supervisor.
I brought lunch. I brought lunch. Something. I didn't even have. Well, I'm next there with my bag. So they come out.